The platform trembled under the metallic sound of the approaching bullet train. Hundreds of people waited in silence. Men in dark suits, students in impeccable uniforms, ladies carrying small shopping bags. No one pushed, no one shouted, no one tried to cut in line. Then something caught the attention of a foreign journalist. When the doors opened, more than 1,000 passengers boarded within minutes. The train departed exactly on the scheduled second. No delay, no confusion. Not a single employee raised their voice. How was that possible? What made an entire society act as if everyone knew an invisible rule? This question seemed simple, but the answer would lead historians, business people, psychologists, and researchers to discover a principle that has spanned centuries of Japanese culture. A principle capable of explaining not only the success of Japanese companies, but also the discipline of their students, the excellence of their artisans, and the country's impressive ability to rebuild itself after the greatest tragedies in its history. And there's a detail that almost no one notices. Japanese success never began with large corporations. He started much earlier, long before the skyscrapers of Tokyo, long before Toyota, Sony, or Panasonic, long before technology. To understand this, we need to go back several centuries. 16th century Japan was a divided country. Rival clans fought over territories. Castles were built and destroyed. Wars seemed endless. Fear was part of the routine. Each sunrise could be the last. But even amidst the chaos, there was a group of men who caught everyone's attention. They were not just warriors. They were trained to master something far more difficult than a sword. They needed to master themselves. The samurai learned early on that losing control for even a few seconds could mean death. Therefore, his training went far beyond combat. Hours of silence, meditation, repetition, discipline, controlling emotions, absolute attention to detail. Few people know, but many of the values associated with the modern Japanese work environment have roots in much older traditions. Although contemporary Japan is quite different from the feudal period, concepts such as discipline, dedication to self-improvement, and responsibility have been shaped over centuries by diverse cultural, philosophical, and social influences. But that was just the beginning, because there was another, even more powerful element. Something that explained why so many ordinary people were able to achieve extraordinary results. Centuries later, a young apprentice entered a small workshop in Kyoto. His dream was simple. I wanted to make swords. On the first day, he believed he would begin by forging steel. It didn't happen. He spent weeks just cleaning the floor, organizing tools, preparing the charcoal, observing in silence. He finally lost his patience. He asked the master when the real training would begin. The old craftsman answered without even raising his eyes, "You believe that making a sword begins with steel. In truth, it starts with the person holding the hammer." The apprentice did not understand. At that moment, those words seemed like just a metaphor. Years later, he would understand that the master was never teaching just one profession. I was shaping a character. This philosophy appears repeatedly in various traditional Japanese crafts. Potters, carpenters, washi paper makers, tea masters, and other artisans often dedicate years to learning the basics before achieving autonomy. The details vary between schools and eras, but the emphasis on patient practice is a widely recognized trait. That's when something even more impressive happened. The same principles that guided these artisans would transcend generations. They would survive wars, to earthquakes, to fires, until they arrived in modern Japan. At the end of World War II, the situation seemed insurmountable. Cities destroyed, industries in ruins, millions of people trying to start over. Few countries have faced such a level of devastation. Many international experts believed it would take decades for Japan to return to being an economic powerhouse. Some doubted that this would happen. But there was an invisible detail. The buildings had collapsed. The factories had been destroyed. But certain values remained intact: discipline, cooperation, continuous learning, respect for work. These elements could not be bombed, and it would be precisely this invisible force that would change the history of the country. In the following decades, Japanese companies began to attract the world's attention. Their products were showing increasing quality. Their processes were studied internationally. His efficiency seemed surprising. But there is a curious detail. Many people imagine that it all happened simply because the Japanese work harder. The reality is much more complex. Researchers who have studied Japanese organizational culture have observed that factors such as continuous improvement, teamwork, training, and a focus on quality have played important roles in the development of many companies. At the same time, they also highlight that the Japanese model faces challenges, such as long working hours in some sectors and professional pressures that have been debated in recent decades. i.e., the real secret was never working yourself to exhaustion. It was about learning to improve a little every day. And nobody imagined what would happen next, because this principle would receive a simple name. A Japanese word that would transform companies, athletes, artists, and millions of people around the world. A philosophy so powerful that it would completely change the way we understand success. A single word began appearing repeatedly in factories, workshops, and meeting rooms throughout Japan. Kaizen. Today, she is known throughout the world. But when it emerged, it seemed almost too simple to change a nation. Its most common translation is continuous improvement. But that definition doesn't explain its true depth. Kaizen doesn't mean making giant changes. It means improving one detail today, another one tomorrow, another one the following week. And repeat this process for years. It may seem like a small amount, but it was precisely this mindset that began to transform companies destroyed by war into global benchmarks. While many countries sought quick solutions, Japan chose a completely different path. Improve 1% per day. Few people realize the power of this idea. A single percent seems insignificant. You don't change your life in a day. You don't learn a profession in a week. You don't build an extraordinary company in a month. But hundreds of small improvements, accumulated over the years, create results that seem impossible to those who only look at the end result. That's exactly what started to happen. Inside a car factory, a young employee noticed a seemingly insignificant detail. One tool was positioned a few centimeters away from its ideal location. Every time he needed to use it, he took 2 extra steps. 2 steps, nothing more. In many companies, nobody would pay attention. But it was different there. The employee suggested changing the tool's position. The change saved only a few seconds. Even so, the idea was accepted. Days later, another worker found another small improvement. Then another one. Then another one. None of them seemed revolutionary, but combined, they began to save working hours, reduce waste, and increase product quality. This way of thinking became internationally known as one of the pillars of the production system developed by Toyota. The principle was simple. Anyone, regardless of their position, could identify problems and propose improvements. Instead of waiting for a major innovation, the goal was to continuously improve processes. That's when everything changed. Companies from various countries began visiting Japan to understand how those factories were able to produce so efficiently. Many expected to find secret machines, inaccessible technologies, some revolutionary equipment. But they returned home disappointed. The machines were no secret. The people were. The workers were encouraged to think, notice, question, learn, to to correct, to improve. Every day, there's a curious detail that almost nobody knows. When American experts began studying this model in the following decades, they realized that many of the tools used in Japan had been influenced by statistical methods developed in the West. The Japanese difference was not only in adopting them, but in incorporating them into the company culture, involving all employees in the continuous improvement process. This explained why so many Japanese organizations were able to evolve consistently over decades. But Kaizen wasn't confined to factories. He left the production lines. He entered the schools, in the houses, in sports, in the daily lives of families. A primary school teacher in Osaka used to tell her students, "Don't compare your notebook with your classmates. Compare it to yours from yesterday." The phrase seemed intended only for children. In fact, he carried a philosophy of life. While much of the world teaches that success means beating others, many aspects of Japanese education value constant self-improvement, collective responsibility, and continuous effort. Of course, each school and each family has its own practices. But this idea frequently appears in studies about education in Japan. Kenji began to notice something he had never noticed before. Throughout his life, he measured his worth by comparison. My colleague's salary, the neighbor's car, the promotion of another employee. There was always someone who seemed more successful. This race never ended. Haruto, who had been listening to his reflection, simply asked, "If you spend your whole life looking at other people's paths, when will you see your own?" The question went unanswered, because for the first time, Kenji realized that he had confused success with competition. That afternoon, Haruto took him to a small rock garden. Everything seemed perfectly organized. Each stone occupied a specific place. The sand formed delicate waves around them. No element was there by chance. Haruto handed Kenji a small rake. "Try it." He began to draw in the sand. The lines came out crooked, unequal. Haruto didn't correct it. He simply picked up another rake and drew next to it. Slow movements, precise, silent. When he finished, he looked at Kenji. "Tomorrow you will do better than you did today. Not because I taught it, but that's because you practiced." At that moment, Kenji understood something that would completely change the way he saw his own life. Japanese success does not stem from an obsession with perfection. It stems from a dedication to progress. Perfection is a destiny that may never exist. Improvement is a journey that never ends. But that still didn't explain why so many people in Japan were able to maintain this discipline for decades, even in the face of failures, crises, and difficulties. There was an even deeper principle. A principle that taught not only how to improve, but never give up. And it is precisely this philosophy that we will explore in the next part. The following morning, before the sun even touched the rooftops of the small village, Haruto was already walking along a narrow path surrounded by bamboo. The air was cold. The smell of damp earth mingled with the fragrance of the trees. Each step produced a slight crackling sound on the dry leaves scattered on the ground. Kenji followed him in silence. I was still thinking about the word I had learned the day before. Kaizen, continuous improvement. It seemed simple. But the more I reflected, the more I realized that that philosophy only explained part of the story. What remained to be understood was why so many people were able to remain disciplined for years, even when results took a long time to appear. That's when Haruto stopped in front of a huge cherry tree. Its torso bore deep marks of time. Some branches seemed too old to still be alive. Even so, new flowers began to appear. Haruto slowly ran his hand over the bark of the tree. Do you know why it still blooms? Kenji watched intently. He didn't answer, because it never gave up on growing, even after all the winters. The answer seemed poetic, but it concealed one of the biggest differences between the traditional Japanese mindset and how much of the modern world views success. Today, many people believe that talent is the deciding factor. If something doesn't work out quickly, they give up. They change professions. They change their objective. They change course. In Japan, there is a very different idea. She teaches that perseverance is often more important than initial skill. This way of thinking appears in different areas of Japanese culture and is often summarized by the word Gambaru. There isn't a perfect translation into other languages, but it conveys the idea of persisting, giving your best, and continuing to move forward even when the path becomes difficult. Few people realize how this philosophy influences daily life. She is present at the school, in sports, in small family businesses, in art, in agriculture, and even in the way many people face the most difficult moments in life. Haruto took Kenji to an old workshop. Inside, a man with completely white hair was shaping a ceramic bowl. The hands moved with impressive calmness. Suddenly, the piece lost its balance. She folded over on herself. After several minutes of work, it was ruined. Kenji imagined that the craftsman would show frustration. But exactly the opposite happened. The old man simply smiled. He kneaded all the clay again, and it started again. Without complaining, no rush, no irritation. Haruto looked at Kenji. How many people would give up after making just one mistake? The question remained unanswered. Researchers studying Japanese craft culture observed that many masters consider mistakes a natural part of learning. Instead of seeing them as definitive failures, they seek to understand them as opportunities to refine their technique. At that moment, Kenji remembered the first big presentation he had given at the company. He made a mistake. He was criticized. Since then, he had avoided taking on new challenges. He realized he wasn't afraid of failure. I was afraid of the trial. Haruto seemed to be able to read her thoughts. Failure was never his enemy. His fear, yes. As they walked through the village, they came across a group of children practicing kendo. The blows seemed clumsy. Many of them got the movement wrong. Others lost their balance. Even so, no teacher shouted. No child was ridiculed. They just kept repeating it. Again, and one more, until the body began to learn naturally. There's a curious detail. In many traditional Japanese settings, repetition is not seen as something tiresome, but as the path to excellence. The goal is not to get it right immediately. It's about allowing knowledge to become part of who you are. Kenji began to realize something he had never learned before. Success doesn't happen the moment someone wins. He is born hundreds of times earlier. When a person decides to continue even after losing. It was then that Haruto made an unexpected stop in front of a small temple. The bells swayed gently in the wind. Silence seemed to envelop the entire place. There were no tourists there, no lines, not even cameras, just a monk slowly sweeping the stone floor. Kenji watched for a few minutes. Each leaf was collected with the same care, even knowing that the wind would bring others soon after. "Does he clean every day?" he asked. Haruto smiled. "Yes, but there will be more leaves tomorrow." "Exactly." Kenji remained silent. Then he understood. Discipline doesn't exist because the work ends. It exists because some things need to be taken care of continuously. Our health, our mind, our family, our character, our knowledge. None of these areas remain strong on its own. They all require constant attention, just like that garden, just like that cherry tree, just like life itself. As the sun began to set, Haruto and Kenji reached the top of a small hill. From there, it was possible to see the entire village illuminated by the golden light of dusk. Haruto took a deep breath. Then he said something Kenji would never forget. The world believes that success belongs to extraordinary people, but history shows otherwise. It usually belongs to ordinary people who did the ordinary thing extraordinarily well for a long time. At that moment, all the pieces finally fell into place. The samurai, the artisans, the teachers, the businessmen, the farmers, the monks. None of them were chasing shortcuts. They all trusted in the same principle: to improve, persist, repeat, learn, to start over. It was this sequence, repeated over the years, that transformed ordinary people into extraordinary figures. Perhaps that's why so many visitors come to Japan looking for the secret to success and return frustrated. Because they hope to find a formula, when in fact they find a philosophy. A philosophy that doesn't promise quick results, but it slowly transforms those who choose to live it. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Japanese success has never been built on a single great moment. It was built in thousands of small moments when nobody was looking. If this story made you see success in a different way, write in the comments which of these Japanese principles caught your attention the most and how it can transform your own life. Your answer could inspire someone who is about to give up. And if you enjoy documentaries that combine history, culture, philosophy, and practical life lessons, subscribe to the channel. There are still many extraordinary stories hidden within Japanese wisdom, and the next one might change how you see your own path. The train began to slow down gradually as it passed through the outskirts of Tokyo. Through the window, Kenji watched the buildings reappearing on the horizon. The avenues were becoming congested again. People were walking quickly. Cell phones occupied almost all hands. Within minutes, it seemed as if the days spent in that small Japanese village had been just a dream. But there was something different. This time, he was the one who had changed. The following morning, upon entering the office, everything remained exactly the same. The same corridors, the same tables, the same meetings, the same impossible deadlines, the same tired faces. For the first time, however, Kenji saw that environment in a different light. He realized that no one was really listening to his colleague. Everyone was just waiting for their turn to speak. Everyone was running. Everyone seemed busy. But few seemed truly productive. That's when he remembered Haruto's words. Improving doesn't mean doing more. It means doing better. That week, instead of trying to solve dozens of problems at once, he decided to focus all his attention on just one task. He turned off notifications. He closed his email for a few hours. He organized his desk. He took a deep breath. He worked calmly. When it was over, he realized something surprising. He finished the job faster than he usually did, and with fewer errors. There is a curious detail that psychologists and researchers have been studying for years. Although many people believe that multitasking increases productivity, several studies indicate that constantly switching attention can reduce performance and increase the number of errors. Focusing on one activity at a time usually produces better results in many situations. Kenji Soryu. Without realizing it, Haruto had taught him that long before any scientific research. A few days later, an important meeting brought together all the company's managers. The atmosphere was tense. Sales had fallen. The goals would not be met. The discussions began immediately. Some blamed the economy. Others blamed the competitors. Others blamed the team itself. While everyone was arguing, Kenji remained silent. I was watching. I was listening. I was expecting it. When he finally spoke, he asked only one question. What is the smallest problem we have managed to solve today? The room became completely silent. Nobody expected that question. For a few seconds, no one answered. Then, one of the employees raised his hand. There was a simple process that was delaying the entire team's work every day. It only took a few minutes to correct. They solved that problem. The following week, they found another one, then another one, then another one. Without realizing it, the entire team had begun to apply Kaizen. Months later, the results started to appear. Not because anyone was working harder, but because everyone started working smarter. That's when the company director called Kenji into his office. He looked at some reports. Then he asked, "What exactly did you change?" Kenji thought for a few seconds. He smiled discreetly. "Almost nothing. I just stopped looking for oversized solutions." The answer seemed simple, but it carried a powerful truth. The greatest changes rarely begin in a grand way. They begin when someone decides to improve the next step. There's another detail that almost nobody notices. Throughout history, many Japanese companies have achieved international recognition not only for creating quality products, but also for developing a culture where learning, correcting mistakes, and improving processes were part of the daily work. This model has inspired organizations in different countries, although each has adapted these principles to its own reality. That night, on his way home, Kenji did something he had never done before. He turned off the computer. He put his cell phone away. He prepared dinner slowly. He sat down at the table. He ate without distractions. Then he walked to the balcony of the apartment. He observed the sky illuminated by the city. He thought of Haruto. He thought of the cherry tree. He thought of the old craftsman. He thought of the monk sweeping up leaves that would return the next day. He finally understood. None of them were seeking a perfect life. They were simply seeking to live in the right way at that moment. Perhaps that was precisely what made so many Japanese people successful. They weren't expecting any motivation to act. They formed habits. They weren't expecting inspiration. They instilled discipline. They weren't chasing immediate results. They trusted in time. And, above all, they understood that true success wasn't about arriving before others. It was about becoming a better person than I was yesterday. Years later, Kenji returned to the small village where it had all begun. The streets remained silent. The mountains continued to protect that place from the fast pace of big cities. Haruto was already much older. Completely white hair. The slowest steps. But the smile, it remained exactly the same. Upon reuniting with his former master, Kenji bowed. Before he could say anything, Haruto asked, "So, you've found the secret to success?" Kenji looked around. He saw children playing, elderly people tending to the vegetable gardens, craftsmen working patiently, people living without haste. He smiled. "Yes, but I discovered it was never a secret. It was always right before our eyes." Haruto responded with a slight nod. Most people are looking for an extraordinary formula. Few have the courage to live an extraordinarily disciplined life. The wind began to blow again through the bamboo. Some leaves fell slowly onto the path. Kenji watched the scene in silence. He realized that success was never a destination. It was a way of walking. Perhaps that's why so many people spend their lives looking for the secret to success in the wrong place. They're looking towards the top of the mountain. The Japanese have learned to look to the next step. And step by step, they build a life that seems extraordinary. Precisely because they never stopped valuing the little things. If this story has changed the way you see success, tell us in the comments. Which Japanese principle will you start applying today? Sometimes, a single decision can change years of a life. And your comment could inspire someone to take that first step. And if you enjoy documentaries that combine history, culture, philosophy, and practical lessons to transform the way we live, subscribe to the channel. There are still centuries of Japanese wisdom waiting to be discovered, and the next story could completely change how you see the world. Years have passed. The seasons kept changing. The cherry trees bloomed every spring. The reddish leaves would once again cover the temples every autumn. And as the world seemed to accelerate more and more, Kenji began to realize something he had never imagined. True success had changed more than just his career. He had transformed his way of life. One morning, while walking through the streets of Tokyo, he saw a young executive running to catch the subway. The phone rang incessantly. The coffee almost fell from his hands. His eyes betrayed nights of poor sleep. The scene seemed eerily familiar. It was like looking at yourself a few years earlier. At that moment, he understood that thousands of people were living exactly as he had lived. Always busy, always tired, always chasing a future that never arrived. That's when a question popped into his mind. What if the biggest obstacle to success wasn't a lack of talent, but the way we choose to live each day? This question continued to haunt him for a long time. Shortly after, he received an unexpected invitation. A university wanted him to speak to hundreds of young people about to start their careers. Upon taking the stage, everyone expected to hear a lecture on leadership, regarding business, about money, regarding business strategies. But Kenji remained silent for a few seconds. He looked at each face. He took a deep breath. Then he said just one sentence. "I've spent half my life trying to beat others, the other half learning to overcome myself." The auditorium fell completely silent. He didn't show any graphs. He didn't talk about investments. He did not present any formulas for success. He only told stories. He spoke about an old man named Haruto, about a craftsman who started over without complaining, about children who learned without fear of making mistakes, about a monk who swept up leaves every day, even knowing they would return, about a tree that never tried to grow faster than the others. As he spoke, he noticed something extraordinary. People didn't write down numbers. They wrote down ideas. Because numbers get old, but principles transcend generations. There's a curious detail. When researchers analyze the stories of people who have achieved excellence in different fields, they rarely find a single factor responsible for success. Instead, they observe a combination of discipline, continuous learning, adaptability, purpose, and persistence in the face of difficulties. There is no universal formula, but these elements frequently appear in enduring career paths. That was exactly what Kenji had learned. There was no hidden secret. There were principles, and principles work in any era. As they were leaving the lecture, a student approached, visibly emotional. He asked, "What was the most important decision of your life?" "Kenji Soryu." He thought for a few seconds, then he replied, "The day I stopped asking, 'How can I be more successful?' and started asking, 'How can I become a better person?'" The boy remained motionless. Perhaps that answer would change his life, just as Kenji's had changed years before. Months later, he decided to return to the small village again. I needed to see Haruto again. But upon arriving, he found the house silent. The garden remained impeccably maintained. The stones remained in the same place. The bamboo grove danced in the wind. The kettle still rested on the old wooden table. But Haruto was no longer there. Neighbors said he had passed away peacefully a few days earlier, surrounded by his family, after living a long and serene life. Kenji remained motionless. Not a single tear fell at that moment. Just a profound silence. She walked slowly to the garden where so many conversations had taken place. He sat down on the old wooden bench. The wind carried some cherry blossom petals that landed on her shoulders. It was impossible not to remember the first question Haruto had asked him. "Do you believe that success means arriving before others?" At the time, Kenji answered yes. Today, I knew I was completely wrong. Looking out at the garden, he realized that Haruto had never left behind a great empire. He never became famous. It never appeared in the newspapers. Even so, it transformed hundreds of lives. Perhaps this is the greatest kind of success there is, the one that continues to exist even after we are gone. Few people realize this. The world often measures success by wealth, power, or recognition. But Japan preserved another way of seeing it. True success is reflected in the respect earned, based on the trust that has been built, in silent excellence, in the ability to improve every day, in the serenity of one who sleeps peacefully because they lived according to their values. This is perhaps the greatest lesson from Japanese culture. The Japanese don't become successful because they were born different, not because they possess a secret talent. They grew up surrounded by principles that teach something the modern world has almost forgotten. Discipline is worth more than motivation. Consistency trumps intensity. Character matters more than appearance. The process matters more than the speed. And small improvements, repeated over years, can build an extraordinary life. Perhaps that's why so many people visit Japan seeking to discover the secret to success. And they return disappointed, because they were hoping to find a revolutionary technique, when, in fact, they found a different way of living. It's a method that doesn't promise overnight wealth. It doesn't promise instant fame. It doesn't promise shortcuts. It promises something far more difficult. To build, day after day, a person capable of facing any challenge with discipline, humility, respect, and perseverance. Ultimately, the question was never, how did the Japanese become so successful? The correct question has always been, what habits am I repeating every day, and where are they leading me? Because the future is rarely decided by major events. It is built by the small choices we make when no one is watching. And perhaps at this very moment, as this documentary ends, you are facing a choice that could change the next 10 years of your life. Not a grand choice, but this was the first of many small decisions. Just as Haruto taught. Just like the ancient artisans used to do. Just like the samurai trained. Just like millions of Japanese people continue to do silently every day. True excellence never makes a sound. It grows slowly, with patience, with purpose, consistently. Until one day the whole world asks itself, how did this person get so far? And the answer will always be the same. She just never stopped taking the next step. If this story made you see success in a different light, share in the comments which Japanese principle resonated with you the most and which habit you plan to start today. Your answer could be exactly the encouragement someone else needed to change their life. And if you enjoy cinematic documentaries that combine history, philosophy, Japanese culture, science, and practical life lessons, subscribe to the channel. There are still centuries of wisdom waiting to be discovered, and the next story could transform the way you see the world.